Thank you for watching a live edition of the East West Football Podcast presented by Basefish Mafia. I am Fidel Barraza. Alongside with me, Kendall Whitley, Jerry Martinez, and our special guest today is a reporter for the NFL Network, and you can follow him on Twitter at Wyche89. Steve Wyche, welcome back to the show. Hope you had a great holiday weekend. How you doing?
Hope you guys had a great holiday weekend. I'm great. Thanks for having me back. That means I didn't mess up your flow last time, so I appreciate you guys having me back. And by the way, Kendall, man, I'm looking real quick, Ken. I got to say this. I know you've heard this before, but like you sit there in your hat, you look like a cross between Brian Flores and Kevin Durant, my man.
That's KD.
It's so
I
funny.
get that a lot, Steve. I get that a lot.
It's funny because that's exactly what Fidel and myself call him, is Kevin Durant. We've been calling him that since we first met each other. So it's kind of cool.
You got the Brian Flores look, though, too, man. You got that flow. I
appreciate it. Anytime I mention with Brian Flores and Kevin Durant, that's great.
There you go.
And it was, I believe, October 25th was the when we published our podcast with you in 2020. So it's been about a year.
Perfect.
Well, hey, Steve, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to talk with us today. So first question I want to ask you, I just want to get your thoughts so far in the NFL season.
Awesome. Like everyone's just like, we can't figure out, who's the dominant team. There's all these teams still in the playoff hunt. Wouldn't it suck right now if we're going to week 13, we already knew, right, who was going in, or who, we know the Lions don't have a shot. We know the Jags, we don't have a shot, but that there's still so many teams in play. I mean, isn't that the great part of it? To me, it's so exciting to think that a team like the Colts at 6-6, right? Or the 49ers at 6-5 look like real potential players in the playoffs. They could fall off, of course, but you see that. And the teams that started out hot, like the Rams or some of these other teams that looked really dominant earlier, kind of leveling down. It's like, okay, are they going to be able to get it back? So I love it. I hate all the injuries. There's so many key injuries that affect teams. They've pretty much decimated the Saints, a couple other teams like that. But other than that, I just love the fact that we honestly don't know the identities of a lot of teams. We don't know if these teams are going to be able to get themselves together. And, we just don't know who's going to come out of nowhere down the stretch. I love it.
Now, who would you say is the best team in the NFC, and who's the best team in the AFC right now to you?
Well, the best team in the NFC, and no one talks about it, is the Arizona Cardinals. I know the Packers look really good. And they're just like a shade, in my opinion, a shade below. But Arizona's got a much better defense than people give them credit for. They're 2-1 without Kyler Murray, with Colt McCoy back there. It's a good football team. And remember, D-Hop hasn't played those games either. This is a very good football team. In the AFC, was a week or two ago, we would have said Tennessee, but it's kind of hard not to say the Ravens. But at the same time, it's like, is there anything that doesn't make you think that the Ravens could possibly step on a banana peel and slip a little bit? But to survive like the game this past weekend, 4 interceptions and to be able to still win a football game, that goes to show you've got a pretty complete football team. They just find ways to win games, ugly, indifferent, whatever. They find ways, and that's why I like them. But Kendall's Patriots are surging right now, too. And I got to tell you, I don't want to mess around with the Kansas City Chiefs right now either. I think they're getting ready to really, really dig in and get it going.
Yeah, and the Chiefs have a big matchup with the Denver Broncos on Sunday Night Football next week. Let me just ask you, so obviously we saw the Ravens and the Browns last night, a very close, ugly game, a very different Browns team from what we saw last year. What do you think's going on with them besides injuries?
It's hard not to you've got to include the injuries.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield's out here playing with a bad shoulder, subluxing shoulder. He's got a bad foot. He's super banged up. He's trying to gut it out. Their offensive line took another hit last night. Bad injury right there. They've barely had, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb on the field together for a good chunk of the season. Jarvis Landry's been banged up. The injuries are a huge issue. They cannot score. Right, they're averaging 10 points a game over their past 3 games since a Week 5 47-42 loss. They've only scored more than 17 points one time. That's when they beat down the Bengals. So they are having difficulty scoring the football. A lot of it's injuries, a lot of it's guys dropping balls, not making plays. A lot of it's Baker Mayfield. They just have not found any type of synergy offensively. So I think it's a big problem, man, because, I mean, all those teams in the AFC North have brutal schedules going down the stretch. And it's going to be, those teams like the Ravens that find ways to win games ugly or whoever they have to that are going to emerge.
What are some teams that you think are going to be able to make a run in December and get into the playoffs and possibly make a run to the Super Bowl that maybe not a lot of people are talking about?
Ooh. Well, you heard me mention the Colts. They had a tough loss to the Buccaneers. They're at 6-6, but they look good, man. I mean, they've got to protect the second half leads. I mean, they had a bunch of turnovers. Well, I think 4 turnovers in the second half yesterday. You can't do that, but they look like a good football team. It's hard. It's again, the Niners, I think, are going to get there. I think the Vikings have a shot. Even though they just lost to the Niners. I'm just kind of going through. I don't believe in any of these teams in the NFC East other than Dallas. Teams really intriguing me right now, and it's just I want to just run my head through a wall. It's just the Dolphins. They've won 4 straight, man. Tua looks really good.
Yeah.
Ever since they've kind of streamlined their play calling operation and things like that, it pretty much let George Godsey take over. They're functioning much better. Since Tua came back, he seems healthier. They're playing better on defense. They're playing better offensively. Now, they haven't played a bunch of great teams, but that's a team no one's really talking about that I'm keeping my eye on. I think they're above the 500 mark now. So that's a team I'm keeping my eye on.
And my last question for you, what's going on with the Rams? Obviously, they 2 big trades, Von Miller, OBJ. It's not working out so far. What's going on with the Rams?
Well, I mean, their issue started before the trade. I mean, look, let's not forget they lost the guts of their team when Robert Woods blew out his knee in practice. People say, well, he was their number 2 wide receiver. Yeah, but he kind of embodies everything with this team. And I say team with their – he blocked. He ran the ball, right? He kind of served as kind of their running back, their Deebo Samuel type of guy. Great chain mover, just a reliable dude. And I mean, him going down hurt. So Odell's kind of going game by game, learning the game plan, but he can't be as physical as Robert Woods in a blocking game because he's got a bad shoulder, right? Von Miller played well against the Packers last night. He had a really good game. But the Rams' issues are these. Matthew Stafford is throwing a pick 6 in 3 consecutive games. He is now being mentioned in the same breath as Matt Schaub, who did it in 4 consecutive games. Never good company to keep. They've get these early game turnovers, right? So then they fall behind. And then these other teams that they've played, they have lost to Tennessee, San Francisco, and Green Bay. They can pound you on the ground. And that's exactly what happened, right? So those teams are putting together these 12 and 13 play drives, keeping this quick strike offense off the field, wearing down this defense, right? And then the Rams are having a hard time going toe-to-toe. So what people around the league are saying about the Rams is they're like a dome team, right? Think about those old Peyton Manning teams and the old greatest show on turf teams. If they get an early lead and get up on you, they can send their pass rushers after you because they know you're one-dimensional and have to throw it. But if the Rams have to get in there and throw haymaker after haymaker, Mike Tyson, Riddick Bowe type fights, and that's not what they want to do. But the Rams can do that if they're not turning the ball over. And that is their big issue right now. It is correctable, but they better figure out who they are pretty quickly because the blueprint of their last 3 games has clearly been laid. Not everyone can do it like those 3 playoff teams that I mentioned, but that's something where people think the Rams have got a soft underbelly on the interior offensive line and the middle level of their defense with their inside linebackers, and they are going after it. And they want to get you in a game where they've got to junk it up a little bit because they know that the Rams do not like playing that style.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
My guy, Steve. Thanks for joining, man. Hey,
Flow KD. KD flow.
Hey, Steve, real quick, I just want to ask 2 Patriots questions. You can answer me in the order. How far do you think the Patriots can go this year? And are you surprised with how well Mac Jones has played?
Look, why would I say the Patriots could come out of the AFC? I mean, I think they could. I think to some degree would be surprised because, then they'd have to get through late season Patrick Mahomes or late season Lamar Jackson. But the Patriots are playing at this point. Remember what we got 5 weeks to go.
Yep.
They are playing postseason football where they are pounding you offensively, running the ball. I love when they line up the fullback and just say, we're running the ball. We dare you to stop us because if you do, then you win. If you don't, then we're going to keep running the ball until you do stop us. And then defensively, it's just insane, right? They got these 2 lockdown corners, just great corners, very good safeties. So that allows them to play coverage rush, right? They're playing back to front.
Yes.
Now you've got studs up front like Judon, those horses on the inside, on D tackle, who are just hard to move. And then you got the physical linebackers like Hightower. And Mac Jones is just playing such, he is not playing to lose. He's playing to win ball games, right? A lot of rookies, let's minimize the mistakes and let's just run the ball and take it out of his hands. The Patriots seem to feel very confident in him handling the ball and him running their offense and asking them to make plays. And so good for him, as the Patriots are so good at doing, is maximizing player strengths, designing things around player strengths, and then winning ball games. I mean, they look formidable right now, but again, I think Buffalo's a team that can get going again. I think they meet this week. So, it's going to be interesting down the stretch, but I love how the Patriots are playing right now.
Yes, sir, my guy. Appreciate it, Steve.
Hey, Jerry, for some reason, I am not hearing you, my man.
I was so excited. I was like, man, Steve, it's my turn. How do I follow up these? A lot of people want to know, first and foremost, once they found out that you were coming on, have you heard anything about the Dallas Cowboys, right? Because we've been seeing, and a lot of concerns that I've been hearing and have been asked is Dak okay, right? And I don't know, have you heard anything? I mean, Cowboys look kind of hot for a moment, and then, I don't know, these last couple of games, they just can't get these wins, can't lock in these big wins when they need to.
Well, I mean, look, you've seen a lot of teams go through this. Defensively, they have let up a little bit from where they did earlier, just a couple games ago. I mean, you saw the game against the Raiders, they just could not get a stop. Well, they need to get a stop in large part because DPI, defensive pass interference. I mean, that was just an insane game with all the officials on Thanksgiving. But Dallas is a good football team, right?
Yeah.
They still have to kind of figure out the run-pass balance. Zeke said he's going to manage that knee issue, but they've got Tony Pollard, who's a super explosive, right? So they've got kind of a good combo there. Amari Cooper being out, hey, man, look, this is one of these things where people say, hey, personal choice, but he didn't get vaccinated. He goes on the COVID list. He's out for 2 games. It affected their game plan. It affected what they like to do.
It's true.
So, I mean, that's part of it as well. Now, him coming back is not going to solve all their issues, but I think Dallas is a very good team. I mean, I think they can get it going, and I have not heard of anything that's impeding Dak. They haven't lost because of Dak. They lost because, the Raiders game, because they gave up the explosive plays mainly on DPIs. But Dak is playing well. So, yeah, I mean, they've lost a couple games. They haven't looked great, but I think they can get it going again. It'd be interesting to see how they do Thursday with Mike McCarthy. He's on the sidelines because he tested positive for COVID. See how they handle things there. But I think this is where the players will kind of take control and rally because they know they need to get a win, and they're playing a very wounded, nicked-up Saints team.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Well, I know that you gave a sigh of relief to a bunch of my family and friends that asked about the Dallas Cowboys, right? I mean, who doesn't like to hear?
I didn't say they were going to click off 6 straight wins and go to the Super Bowl. I just said, like, look, it's Jerry likes to say the sky's not falling.
Yeah, well, you had said they were a good football team, so that's what I was trying to refer to.
Heck yeah.
So, Steve, if you can you give us a little bit of some information as far as this HBCU Legacy Bowl coming up in February? I know it's the first time ever. What is it? I've seen that the NFL has made some big strides with HBCU, and you kind of leading the way. but what can we expect from it? And not only us as people maybe watching, but maybe the players participating in it.
Yeah, so look, the HBCU Legacy Bowl will have its premiere event February 19th, the weekend after the Super Bowl at Tulane Stadium in New Orleans. And what this will do is there'll be 100 draft-eligible players from historically Black colleges and universities who will have like a Senior Bowl week, right? They're going to practice Tuesday through Friday. So all the scouts, NFL, CFL, XFL, whatever, who want to come through and look at them, we'll see them in practice, where they're going up against certain competition and certain drills to see how they do things. Very much like the Senior Bowl format. And the actual game will be on that weekend where you get to see them under the lights, right? Some guys maybe don't practice as well as they play. So this will give them that opportunity. The game will be broadcast on NFL Network. But the whole genesis of this, guys, and this came from the Black College Football Hall of Fame and its leadership of Doug Williams and James Shaq Harris, two NFL legends, two pioneering Black quarterbacks who both went to Grambling State University in Louisiana, was over the past 2 years, one player from a historically Black college has been drafted. And that's kind of insane.
It is.
When you watch players like Darius Leonard, of the Colts, or Javon Hargrave, the D tackle for the Eagles, just dominate, and you think about the history of what historically Black colleges have given to the NFL. I think you've got 34 or 35 Pro Football Hall of Famers. 10% of Pro Football Hall of Fame went to HBCUs. So the fact that so few HBCU players have been drafted, it's not because of a dearth of talent. A lot of it's been a dearth of exposure, right? There's only been 1 or 2 invited to the combine. So this is basically giving all of these people who pay players to play football, again, the NFL, CFL, XFL, an opportunity to come get eyes on these players. But not just the players, but coaches. The coaching staffs will be from HBCUs. The training staffs will be from HBCUs. So this is an opportunistic way for people who want to be athletic trainers, or maybe who want to get into the player development side, to meet people who can help lift them into those leagues and give them those opportunities. There's also going to be a career fair where several big companies, including the NFL and NFL Network, are going to have booths where they can talk to the players, and for students from HBCUs in Louisiana and from surrounding communities who want to come through to hand resumes and have sit-down conversations with headhunters for possible job recruitment and employment. So it's a whole week, again, of opportunity is how I'll say that. Again, New Orleans, February 19th is the actual game at Yulman Stadium at Tulane. It'll be on NFL Network. I will be on the call with Charles Davis and Bucky Brooks and some other folks. It's just going to be a huge showcase of some of the really good talent who we could see in the NFL over the next couple of years, because there are several not just draft eligible, but draft likely players coming to the NFL this year, such as like Alabama A&M quarterback Akil Glass, who's just a fantastic player.
That all sounds great. Now I got 2 real quick questions. I know we're a little bit strapped for time. So so one of them being is, you have one of the most interesting journeys, right? Because I mean, from a young age, you've been to a lot of places. Your career didn't just land on NFL Network, right? You've been a part of some big time situations, some not so likely, right? But a part of the entire journey. What has been? I know it's not done, but so far, what's your favorite part of this entire journey? You to me, you seem like a trailblazer, but I'll let you answer that question.
Well, I'm definitely not a trailblazer. I mean, there's so many people ahead of me, the Roscoe Nances, the Ralph Wileys, the Michael Wilbons, David Aldridges. I mean, just Claire Smiths, just so many. But look, I mean, I was a 20-year writer. I was in the newspaper game for a long time, and I've done pro boxing, I've done major college football, done the NBA for years. I mean, so career-wise, it's weird. You asked me this question 10 years ago, and I'm going to say, oh, man, my big highlight was, breaking the story on Michael Jordan coming to Washington when I worked in D.C. market, or, being one of the first people to interview Mike Tyson when he got out of prison. But now it's really, now that I'm at the age I'm at and done some of the things I'm at, it's really kind of doing things like getting involved with the Black College Football Hall of Fame and the Legacy Bowl and trying to create opportunities for someone to take my job. Or, when I look at the sets of everything like Fox, ESPN, CBS, and all that, I'm saying there's no reason why, especially a person of color, an Asian, a Black person, a Latina, some of my indigenous brothers and sisters, why they can't be in that chair. Right? Because it seems now that all the people making decisions feel that everyone fits into a certain role, i.e., tell me an insider in any sport of color, the insider. It's not a genetic flaw. It's just who people choose to put in those roles. So it's my decision now to open eyes and create opportunities. And that's kind of where I am in the journey now. But I mean, look, the best part about the whole journey is just meeting people, whether they're athletes or coaches or, people with teams or leagues, and more so just my colleagues and, every place that I've worked. Those are lifelong relationships, that, I will treasure until I take my last breath.
So awesome. And last one. So we saw a post on your social media, right? So it was jalapeno, bacon, red pepper, mac and cheese. Can you give us on a scale of 1 to 10? What was that?
Come on, man. The 10.
All right.
Thanks, Matt Judon.
And is this only going to be a
Kendall? Get your boy.
Will this only be a Thanksgiving side going forward?
No. My wife gets down, man. I got a Jamaican wife who gets down. She got the great mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Everything else. So no. It's too good to have just once a year, my brother.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Steve, for all your time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Hopefully, talk to you soon at the end of the year or during the playoffs. So thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate you. You guys got to try the mac and cheese recipe on your own.
Yeah, it's
All right,
going down.
Thanks, Steve.